people in the back, if you don't mind, move to. Yeah, there's a lot of seats here. Yeah.
Hi.
So how's everyone doing?
Good.
So we have. I want to thank first the volunteers from the American Buddhist Life. ABCS. Yeah, the volunteers that came earlier to help us set up the chairs. Thank you so much. And we also have 安师傅英文。我说你的英文怎么称呼？Okay, Jan, yeah, to be here with us, and thank you so much for all for coming. And this is a great opportunity for us to share our concerns with our police chief and with our staff and personnel. And I think it's wonderful to have this kind of communication. So I think there's a lot of Chinese speakers here. If you want to ask questions in Chinese, I will be more than happy to translate for you as well. So make it more interactive. Yeah, and then so we're gonna keep our presentation relatively shorter, so we can have take more questions and address more of the concerns of the community. Yeah, wonderful. So we have our police chief, Fremont Police Chief Sean Washington. Thank you. Chief Washington has been with Fremont Police Department for more than 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank you so much for all of your service. And just last year, he was promoted to Fremont Police Chief. So congratulations. Yeah. Actually, the first time for District 1 neighbors to meet him in person. We had some online meetings. So now that COVID has kind of settled down, hopefully, it's getting better from here, and then we'll get to work more in person. So thank you very much for being here. Yeah, and I also want to introduce our brand new Deputy Chief.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, and so Deputy Chief joined us from the county.
East Bay Regional Park
East Bay
District. I
Regional
spent
Park.
28 and a half years with the Park District, so a lot of nexus to the city of Fremont. Worked with collaboratively with the city of Fremont and the communities for many years, so that's what brought me to the city. So I'm happy to be here and happy to answer any questions and listen to concerns.
Thank you so much. Sergeant Enrique with us today. I also want to introduce, we have a planning commissioner,
Benny.
Mr. Benny. From Fremont Library.
Senator
All
Library.
right. So, so maybe Chief can share with us more.
Sure. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is just my very honor to be here with you today. And so, I always welcome an opportunity to engage with the community as much as I can, especially this community who has articulated so many concerns as far as automobile break-ins and sideshow activity, which is prevalent in this particular area. So today is more of an educational and a listening session for myself and my staff so that we can make whatever adjustments we can make with the limited resources that we have to do all we can for our community. Understanding that it is a tall task. We are responsible for over 230,000 people and their safety and security. And with our limited resources, we get stretched thin. So, but we will do all we can with what we have moving forward. So I'm joined here by, like the council member said, my deputy chief and sergeant, and they both work out of the office of the chief. And that's important because I want these two individuals to hear what I'm hearing, so they are my trusted advisors, which will help us develop strategies and plans on how we can move forward. So I just can't say enough about the opportunity to be here, to meet you all, to engage. There's been, since COVID, I I'm craving personal interaction and those type of things. So I'm just very happy to have this opportunity. And I know we're joined by some of our leadership throughout the city as well. So what makes Fremont special is this. Trust me. You all know it. You live here. You engage with each other. You engage with your elected officials, your city leadership team, to try to make this the best community possible. And we're all motivated for the same thing. Which makes Fremont unique and special. I've lived in other communities where this doesn't happen. It just doesn't. And so it motivates me to do as much as I can personally, and then motivate my staff to do all they can to help continue that high level of service, and we can enjoy this wonderful, wonderful community, because it is a special place. We want to maintain it. So anyway, with that, again, I'm interested in hearing perspectives, thoughts, but I will share with you, in preparation for this meeting, we pulled some of the statistics for the sideshow activity. And if you don't know what a sideshow is, it is unlawful vehicle driving and behavior that's very dangerous. Very dangerous for pedestrians, the motoring public, and you typically hear about these events in the northern part of the county, Oakland, San Leandro oftentimes, but we do get our fair share of these events as well here in Fremont. Last year we had about 19 of these events in 2021. So far this year we've had 2 on record, and those were significant. However, I think some of the strategies that we've deployed over the last couple of years are starting to take hold and work. One, we were fortunate enough to have someone, and I'm going to embarrass him, that took it upon himself to address this issue, to come up with strategies, and to work with our regional partners to try to mitigate the impact that it has here in Fremont. And so, high visibility, training for our officers on how to best respond to these type of incidents, all those things have come into play. What's in the background and what's in the works right now also is we're trying to work with our city attorney's office to develop an ordinance that helps dissuade people from participating in these events. So it's not only the cars that are causing the problems, that are doing the tricks and those type of things, it's the spectators as well. So we want to make it very uncomfortable for the spectators to encourage this type of behavior in our community as well. So we're hopeful that in the next couple of months we will have some sort of ordinance that we can issue out, or citation or things like that we can issue out to help mitigate these incidents. They are large scale. It does require a large scale response on our part. So again, with limited resources that we have here at the department, 100 cars or 50 cars that are coming into our city, and we expect 10 officers to respond to that, we're going to need to have mutual aid or other resources come in to help. And that's what we've worked with. Sergeant Enrique has done a fantastic job of working with our partner allied agencies to help mitigate that. So you may see, if there's a sideshow activity here in Fremont, you may see Newark PD, Union City PD, California Highway Patrol. Those type of agencies may come in to assist us, because it will quickly exceed our capabilities and we have to call in for more resources. And so as the summer months start to take hold, we can likely expect this type of behavior to increase, unfortunately. When it's rainy outside and it's cold, no one wants to participate in these things. But in the summer, yes, they do tend to increase. So we are aware of the incidents. We are ready to respond, and we will respond. Sometimes there is a delay. I think the last one that we responded to up here, and it took us a little while to get here, this was because an hour earlier we had a homicide in the city. And so the homicide consumed so many resources to where we had to ask our partner agencies actually to help with 911 calls here in the city. And that's That's typically how it works whenever our resources are quickly consumed, is that we ask our partner agencies to come in and help. And so, you know, we had the homicide working, and then at the same time we had sideshow activity up in this area. So those two things working together, you know, it took like 15 or 20 minutes before we were able to adequately respond. And adequately respond meaning sending more than just one officer, because that officer would quickly be overwhelmed and likely in danger because they're unable to handle that situation by themselves. So in the past, we actually had officers assaulted. We've had bottles, we've had shots fired with these folks. So it is a situation that we take very seriously, and we want to dissuade folks from coming into Fremont in the first place. But it starts with all of us collectively together. The final point I'll say about sideshows is that we're working with our traffic engineers as well to try to come up with solutions on how to make locations that we typically have these incidents in less desirable. So rumble strips, you know, things like that, it just makes it doesn't, we don't want to invite a location where, hey, you need to come to Fremont to conduct this activity because it's isolated and we don't have, you know, the police aren't going to be there and it's open and those type of things. So we want to try to work with our traffic engineering division to try to make it less desirable for that type of activity to occur. So I did see a hand back there. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, Mr. Park, I've been living here in community for like 18, 19 years now. So the question I have is, the moment police itself is saying we are understaffed, it's kind of giving invitation to everybody else, you know, kind of come down and do the come into fronts here. Because previously, I never saw Fremont police saying that we are understaffed. So it's been going on for the last 4 or 5 years that we are understaffed. I think that itself is an invitation for the
I'm sorry, say the last part again.
That itself is an invitation for the criminals to come into the Fremont because everybody knows that we are understaffed.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the comment. I'm not sure I agree because every police department in the region is dealing with staffing concerns. It's how you utilize the staff. And when I say understaffed, understand I'm not saying we need, well, I would always like more officers. I'm saying the officers that we're authorized for, we're struggling to reach that maximum, right? So we're authorized now at 202 police officers, and for a variety of reasons that right now I was just talking to my deputy chief, and I'm going to actually explain this in a letter to the community here in the next few days, hopefully. But we have retirements. We have the job market right now is very, very hot, where every industry is struggling to get staff, right? And we're not immune to that either. You know, you can just go in Fremont or some other Silicon Valley organization, and you have a young person who can go and work in the tech industry and make a couple of $100,000 sitting behind the desk and working from home. What type of motivation is there to come out and serve the community and have to deal with the challenges that policing is facing right now? So I don't mean the comments to say we're understaffed as an excuse, because we're still going to provide the very best and the most service we can with the resources we have, or to tip off the criminals, to your point, that we don't have the resources. Any person that comes in contact with the Fremont Police Department, any criminal, any person that wants to do this community harm, they won't make that mistake twice, because we will dedicate every single resource we have available to go after and apprehend those who are causing the most harm to this community. Make no mistake about that, and I'll make that very public. I don't care if they flee to Los Angeles, if they flee to Texas, wherever they go, we will bring them to justice. And so that doesn't change. When I talk about resources, it's just we maintain a certain amount of patrol resources available at all times. So that never changes. Some of the adjustments we've had to make recently had to do with, okay, we need a certain amount of resources in our patrol division. That means when someone calls 911, someone answers, and we're able to deploy a resource out to that emergency. Okay, that is relatively stable. So with our staffing vacancies, what's being impacted is everything else. Our ability to conduct high visibility traffic enforcement using our traffic officers. Some of our specialty units like our crimes against persons and crimes against property units. And those are the folks who investigate, shootings and robberies and those type of things. And then those are the other folks that investigate like thefts with catalytic converters and retail theft and all those other sorts of things. What our staffing shortages are doing is it's starting to deplete those resources where we can't get to as many investigations and solve those investigations and apprehend those folks as effectively as we once could when we had the staff. So it's our challenge really to try to create a balance, because we can't deplete our very ability to apprehend these individuals and at the expense of patrol and vice versa, right? It has to have a balance. What I'm optimistic about though, sir, is that when we're talking about staffing shortages again, it's a combination. The inconsistencies with COVID. We have people that are getting sick just like the rest of the population. And so if you have 4 or 5 officers that are sick with COVID, guess what? We don't have those resources. And then you have just, as a large agency with over 300 employees, you have folks who get sick or injured just in the normal course of duty. They may have health or medical issues. And then we have our vacancy rate as well. Right now we're sitting at about 18, 19, or 20 vacancies, which is about 10%. The industry right now is about 12 to 15% vacancy rate. If you talk to cities like Hayward, Berkeley, San Leandro, their vacancy rate is even higher than ours. So it's regional. The other thing is that, again, folks are leaving law enforcement for a variety of reasons. But some of that has to do with all of the somewhat unfair and unwarranted criticism and critique of the profession. A lot of folks are articulating to me it's no longer cool to be a cop. And that's disturbing. That's disturbing. When I got into this business, I wanted to do nothing else but be a police officer because I believe it's the most noble profession on the planet, to help people. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't reform, we can't change, we can't evolve with the times. We can always get better. But just like any group, we don't want to be painted with a broad brush. So all of those things are kind of coming together at this one particular time to create this perfect storm of where we are as far as our staffing and our ability to maintain people in the profession and at the department. So my objective always is that the community does not feel the impact of some of these staffing shortages, to your point. That is our goal every single time. Yes, sir.
Budget cuts, and you have maybe less resources than what you used to have a few years ago?
No budget cuts. In fact, our budget was increased, and in fact, we were approved to hire 2 more police officers, which I think is good growth. So as our city expands, we get bigger, we need to grow. And we have to do that very systematic and within budget and all those other sorts of things. So just this last budget, we were approved for 2 more police officers, which is a good start to where we need to be. So yeah, the budget is fine as far as our ability to maintain services. We just have to get the staff. So you all might remember Chief Craig Steckler, maybe? He was a chief here maybe about 8 or 10 years ago. And I try to have lunch with Chief Steckler as much as I can because of the wisdom that he has. He had the opposite problem that I have. I'm trying to get qualified employees here hired. He had to lay off individuals because of budget cuts and those types of things back when he was the chief. I have the exact opposite problem. We are competing with other agencies, police agencies. We're competing with the private industry, and it is a struggle right now. It is a struggle. but we have to think creative. Some of the things we're thinking about is you may or may not know that we are actively trying to recruit more women into the profession, because I think we're a little deficient there as well. There are some fine officers out there that we need to recruit, and are we recruiting in the right place? That's one. Two, reimagining the working environment. So we know what attracts young people to the private industry. So can we do some of that at the police department as well? Meaning restructuring our workspaces to have a relaxation area and those type of things. Is there a possibility to help support young families with childcare and those type of things, right? To make the shift work a little more tolerable. And also we know that because of the housing costs, we have officers who live great distances. And we want to keep those resources as close to Fremont as possible. So is there an opportunity to have some sort of temporary, location where they can stay in Fremont as much as they can? So it's those type of things to stay competitive that we need to explore. I just read an article this morning. San Diego PD is probably going to be the first in the nation to offer childcare to their police force, so that they don't have to worry about who's going to babysit, and that way we can support a more diverse candidate. So, but thank you for that comment and question.
Yes, talking about resource shortage. The sideshow always taking place in the intersection. Can you utilize the traffic camera to record the license plate and issue citation? That way you can save you a lot of resource.
Yes,
I suppose.
we can and we do. So and maybe I'll get you to talk about some of the things that we can do when it comes to sideshows and the warrants and stuff that we can use to seize vehicles. So this probably is a good segue to have Sergeant Manrique talk about that.
So he discussed what sideshows are. Anyone have a question still about what it is? So a sideshow is difficult to enforce on all aspects because of many reasons. One, at the time of it, the size, right? Like he talked about, we might have 10 officers respond out there, but there might be 200 to 300 people out there, right? And that's not safe for us to go in and try to make enforcement action when it's actually active. Typically, our enforcement action is after the fact, when we get intelligence and information to go after the people that were involved. There are some cities that have those resources that can take action, like San Jose PD, for example, is very good about enforcement at the time. They have hundreds of officers, and they deploy a lot of resources to that. We typically have to do it afterwards, and that does involve traffic cameras. However, typically they don't have license plates on their car. They either cover them or they take them off. But we have ways to find the plates. We have ways to find their identity, and that's where I used to come in and take care of most of that. I have kind of given that responsibility to a couple younger officers who are on the street still, and we would do intelligence gathering in order to identify the vehicles involved, and then later we can go after those vehicles. So one of the tools we have on our belt is we can get a warrant to take their car and impound it for 30 days. And so if we can identify their car, we can go find their car, just like he discussed. We'll go wherever they are. The chief mentioned that we don't just stay in Fremont. We'll go. We've gone to Pittsburgh. We've gone to Oakland. We've gone to San Jose. All over. Campbell, Gilroy, wherever they're at. Or we'll use our partners in those agencies, CHP or whoever else, to have them pick up the cars for us. And we were very successful in taking people's cars that were involved in those sideshows. But that is a really good resource. And so when you see proposals, when you see us discuss those through the community or through the council about getting more traffic cameras, license plate readers, and things like that, that's one of the reasons that we do want those. We use it for sideshow stuff.
What's the penalty typically for the violation? What's the penalty for that?
It depends. If we can catch the driver themselves, I'll be honest with you, the courts are very busy. COVID really backed up the court system, so there's a low penalty for driving in a sideshow. It's a misdemeanor. I think if you look at the section, the punishment's probably anywhere from 6 months in jail, which that would never happen, and a fine. Typically, I worked a case about a year and a half ago with a very prevalent driver probation. He lost his car for 30 days, and that typically costs anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000. So that's typical, and that's if we can catch the driver. Catching the driver is very difficult. Taking the car, not so much.
Yeah, I just want to add something on one of the original questions regarding staffing. So one of the things that Chief Washington has challenged staff to do is to leverage technology. So we are leveraging technology to put officers in position to address crimes where the hotspots are. So we are developing a real-time crime center where we're going to be able to get that information immediately and then be able to deploy resources in those areas to address those crime trends. So we are utilizing that technology to put our resources that we do have in position to address those things. I just wanted to make sure we do that.
We'll go here, and then there, and then
I
back
have a
over.
question about that actually. So, how are the participants in the slideshow? How do they know where it's going to happen, and can you prevent it from happening before they get there?
I actually was going to mention that if someone you segued right into what I want to talk about. I'll pay you later. Sideshows are typically younger people, and it's usually all organized through social media. Social media can be great, but it also can be a detriment. We have obviously a lot of different issues with it. One of those is it can organize crime. So they do use apps like WhatsApp, Instagram, things like that to organize these events. They typically happen every weekend. I guarantee there's one going on every Friday, probably every Saturday and Sunday night. And they're usually just in another city. Fremont's very lucky. We don't get them much, and we've actually reduced our percentage of sideshows significantly since we started some of we've implemented some of the tactics that we use. They typically will gather in one location, and then they'll give out what they call the list. And that's going to be where they're going. So they're going to say, okay, here's our first 5 spots, maybe 7 spots, however long they want to do it that night. And usually those spots include multiple cities. Sometimes it's just one, like it's maybe just Oakland for the night, maybe just San Jose for the night. But usually it's, hey, we're going to start in Union City, then we'll go to Fremont, then we'll go to Oakland. They usually have a list. That list is difficult to get for us now because they've gotten smart, right? They've gotten savvy. They know that we're watching them. They know that we're watching their Instagram accounts and WhatsApp. Some agencies that have the resources embed undercover officers, and they're able to get that information, or they have informants or other resources to get that. We do have a lot of good communication throughout the Bay Area for agencies to tell if they have that info. So San Jose typically runs our program that we have, which is like an intel sharing program on sideshows, and everyone will just give the information they have, and then whatever agency it's going to occur in, typically they'll try and stop it before it starts. And that's the best way to handle sideshows, to stop it before it starts. So, and that's why a lot of times we don't have them, because they know that we typically will show up to a location, we'll deploy our officers there, make them very visible, and then they'll all show up and go, oh, this one's